a lot of people say, well, there's tomorrow's festival headliners and tomorrow's arena headliners. You can't have those without, the grassroots training ground, if you know what I mean. And that is definitely true, 100%. There was a Music Venue Trust did this brilliant poster of the Reading Leeds lineup, and they took out all of the artists off the poster who had come up through Grassroots, and you were left with about 4 artists.
Wow.
Yeah, because everybody had come up through Grassroots, and sort of pointing out, if you want Reading and Leeds, you've got to support this, because in 10 years' time, you won't have Reading and Leeds. And it's trying to wake up the big players to this idea to kind of support it. That's one way of looking at it. But the other way, and I think it's coming back down to what we were just talking about in terms of the scene as it was 20 years ago, and creating these ecosystems of friendships and bands who are supporting each other and going out on tour as a group of like-minded bands to kind of create this touring debauched shambles as it was back then. We did with the Trash Stock tour. But people get an idea of that. They get an idea of the sense that this is actually going to be a lot of fun because those bands all really like each other and there's going to be really good rapport between them. But I think that in and of itself, that world, that grassroots scene is fine. That it doesn't have to be a training ground for festival headliners, that it can just be something which is there for itself because the audience are into it. It's supporting the local economy. It's supporting the venues. It's supporting local breweries. It's supporting chefs for the food that they eat before. It reaches out beyond its own limits. People are buying hotel rooms or Airbnbs or whatever. It's creating this wider system, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be that those bands go on to play at the arena or a stadium or whatever. They can just stay at that level, and it's okay. I know every band wants to make it in a sense, but some bands don't necessarily, when they do make it, actually feel comfortable when they're up there.
All the best stories come at that grassroots level.
Yeah, exactly. But you see so many bands who get up to that stratospheric level of headlining festivals and arenas. And take The Darkness, for example. They had a horrible time of it when they got up there. It was just they come up properly grassroots, playing every shithole in the southeast. Somehow made it really quick on the first album. Automatically, after that album came out, playing at all the big clubs, and then the year later they were up in the festivals and arenas, and had a horrible time of it. The second album suffered as a result, and when they bounced back down and finally kind of reformed themselves by 2011 or thereabouts, they kind of found their level, their comfort zone. And so many bands have been like that. The Wild Arts would be a good example of that as well, where they can afford a decent living, they can tour around, they can play some fine venues, they can keep releasing records, they can stay independent, but they're not having to answer all of those awkward questions that bands are, in a sense, compromised when they get to those higher levels. So, sometimes it's okay not to be at the top, right at the very top of the pile, that you actually, where you want to be is at those bigger club shows. And again, you can't get that without the grassroots. And sometimes it's all right to just be on the grassroots.
Mate, that's a lovely way of looking at it. I love it.